Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to Okunola Academy once again, wherever you're joining us from anywhere in the world. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. Please do to subscribe, leave your comment, and like this one as well. Today's video is a continuation of what really is a unit root test in a quantitative research or quantitative analysis. However, this is actually the part two, and we'll be paying emphasis on the parameters that are often used in determining the type of um, unit root test that should be conducted in the Eviews environment. So we're going to be looking at the non, the intercept, and of course the intercept and trend. Now, having said that, as usual, uh, we have this outline. We're going to identify the unit root environment uh, in Eviews, and of course, we'll on bring up to our understanding the test equations as they are used in Eviews in this environment, of course, which is the intercept and trend, and of course the known, then the basic features and the basic characteristics of the test equations, as it were, and of course, what are the considerations that we need often to do in our research, in our writing, before we decide which of the parameters we're to use to test our data. Likewise, I just gonna give some examples for our visual understanding. Now, this is the unit, the typical unit root Windows environment in eViews, and we have these um, characteristics there as it's where we have the types of unit root tests. In our last video, we mentioned the various type of unit root tests that could be conducted. The drop down of this column will show some of them, but by default, we've got the ADF, we've got the PP, we also got the KPS, and so on. And these, of course, are the different test types, whether we are performing a level test or we are performing a first different test, and of course, a second different test. Whereas this other side is the lag selection criteria, whether we're selecting SIC or we are selecting Archaica, as the case may be, depending on the lag parameter that we have specified. However, as said, this video is to look at the basis for deciding whether to use the intercept, the trend, and the intercept, and of course, the none. Now, having said that, we just dive into the characteristics of these test equations. Like I said, the intercept and trend, and of course, the none. Now, when you have series, when you have data that's, that shows a constant mean based on the trend visual, and exhibit a random walk with a drift, then the intercept parameter is often expected to be used. Now, here you find that your data would not show a clear uh, either upward trend or downward trend over time. And with that, it shows you that there's a random walk with the drift in that data. Now, some economic indicators that often show these characteristics is, for example, interest rate. Interest rate being a policy instrument that can be used to trigger, whether contraction, expansionary purpose in the economy. So you do not expect it to trend, upward as the case may be. That in the intercept and trend, yeah, most data that exhibit a random walk with the drift and shows time trend over time is uh, data that could that would be used in this area to for intercept and trend for estimation purposes. Now, here, the basis of identification or the basis of its features of that data is that it shows a very obvious or clear or consistent upward trend, or downward trend or movement over time. And some of the economic data or economic indicators that could exhibit this kind of movement, often the GDP, the gross domestic product, and of course stock prices, over time as they were. Then when your data or your series shows no intercept, no drift, and shows purely a random walk, then you said that you use the non-parameter its use in this instance. Now, a typical example of this would be a daily, return of the stock exchange market, because you cannot use that daily fluctuation to predict tomorrow's outcome. So oftentimes the daily return or the indexes of the market will exhibit this kind of trend. So how do we know whether data, whether data or a series exhibit an intercept, or whether it exhibit an intercept and trend or known characteristics before we even do the before we perform the unit truth test? Now, these are the general considerations. Now, whether it is intercept or trend, or perhaps it is non-parameter that you're going to use, the basis of consideration is the fact that you need to first and foremost visualize the data. You need to visualize the data in terms of graphical visualization. This helps to ascertain whether this data trend upward or downward, whether it exhibits a kind of a random walk, or there is a random walk or drift in its trend, in its movement over time, or perhaps it's simply a non-zero or kind of data visual. So you need to plot the visual. With this, it will tell you whether you are to use the intercept or intercept and trend, or perhaps to use none. Now, another parameters that you can use, another consideration rather that we can use, is the fact that that data, what are the economic, or sorry, what are the theoretical consideration or the theoretical underpinning that data that we need to be grounded in that area to know whether the visuals support a theoretical concept, sorry, a theoretical underpinning that process or that visuals that we have seen. And in any case where we seem to be confused, we could also leverage on what we call the iterative process, in the sense that there are most generally assumed um, estimation that either you combines both the intercept and trend together. So we start with the most generally used process. So that is the intercept and trend. Then we move to the trend, that is the intercept rather. Then we move to the non as it were. Now, taking a look at this visual, an example shows that this is a GDP per capita growth of a data. The video on this will also be dropped for us to get a clearer understanding. Do well to also lay your hands on the video so that you can see the practical processes of what has been explained here. Now, looking at this data, this is GDP uh, growth over time, and you see that the data point fluctuates around a mean value that is non-zero. You could see it fluctuates around value that is non-zero over time. So it appears that it's stable around this period, perhaps, and become non-stable around this period as well. So what this means is that you don't have trend in this data, and readily suggests that this is an intercept data as a whole. So what are the economic considerations of this data in terms of GDP per capita growth as a whole? Is it the classical assumptions of growth? Is it the neoclassical assumptions or the indigenous assumptions as a whole? Though there could be a mix of this, however, but whatever uh, whatever process of research or writing you're trying to achieve will also inform what the data is expected to display. And like I said earlier, we can start with the most general itinerary by using the intercept and trend, which is the most generally acceptable for the fact that it combines the intercept and trend together. Then you can move to the trend, and of course, you can move to null. So I believe with this little illustration, you will be able to understand going forward that before you perform your unit root test, you need to first and foremost ascertain the visuals of those data. Once again, thank you for listening, and please do help subscribe to this channel, and please like, especially leave your comment for improvement purposes. Thank you. Bye.